Evening, everybody. 7 o'clock, so let's make a start. Welcome to tonight's Newcastle Borough Council Winter Festive Scrutiny. Item number 1 is apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Parker, who is being substituted tonight by Councillor Joan Wielden, and I have received notice from Mr Mayor that he will be attending but may be running a little late because of an official engagement. Are there any other apologies for absence? Councillor Grocott.
Apologies for Councillor Lawley, please.
Good. Will anybody be substituting for Councillor Lawley? No. Okay, item number 2 is declarations of interest. Does any councillor have a declaration of interest to make in respect of any item on the agenda? If not, item number 3 is minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any questions or queries on the minutes? Can we agree them as an accurate record? Excellent. Item number 4 then, the first item of substantive business, the revenue and capital budget first draft savings plans. Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a bit of a script to read, and then myself and Craig will take questions. This report presents the refreshed medium-term financial strategy, including the first draft proposals being considered to balance the 26-27 revenue budget and the proposed capital programme for 26-27 to 28-29. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a 1.752 budget cap for 26-27. Yes, that's a bit of luck. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a £1.752 million budget gap for 26-27 via a vigorous internal efficiency board process and have been agreed with managers as being both feasible and sustainable. A significantly below inflation council tax increase of 1.99% per Band D property is again proposed. This amounts to 10 pence per week or less for 95% of households within the borough, i.e. those residents living in Band A, B, C, D and E properties. The savings identified enable a continued contribution of £250,000 to the Civic Growth Fund. This will continue to enable investment in the council's priorities, including significant investment in boosting the sustainability of the environment within the borough and supporting development of the town centre. The capital programme for 26-27 to 28-29 is based on new schemes which are vital to ensure continued service delivery and assisting the council to achieve its corporate and service objectives as set out in the council plan. These schemes total £109.9 million, of which £35.1 million relates to 26-27. This includes schemes to regenerate the town centres, including schemes partially funded for major investment into the borough, successfully secured via the Town Deals Fund for both Newcastle and Kidsgrove. Delivering the capital programme for 26-27 will require prudential borrowing to be undertaken. The impact of borrowing is included in the MTFS. The draft proposals will assist in formulating a financially robust budget for the council for 26-27, continue to ensure the council's financial sustainability whilst also protecting the services that our residents value. Thank you very much, and I'm sure
Thank you very much, Councillor Sweeney. Welcome, Mr Mayor. We have just commenced item number 4, which is the first substantive item of business. You'll be pleased to know. Absolutely fine. Thank you for letting me know in advance that you would be arriving just a little bit late. That then is the first draft savings plan from Councillor Sweeney. It was very well received at Cabinet this week, but then it would have been. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put to Councillor Sweeney or to our officer? Councillor Stubbs has volunteered to go last. In that case, would any other councillor like to make a comment? I'll say what I say every year, which is that this is your opportunity, if you wish to grasp it, to suggest alternate or additional savings, because I know that when we have our full budget meeting, meeting of full council in due course, that that there's always a possibility that somebody will want to raise an amendment to the budget. This is the time to fund such a thing. If you have any thoughts, Councillor Wielden, I can see you've indicated, so I'll come to you first, and then to anyone else. then to Councillor Stubbs.
Chair, I'd very much like to be the PS after Councillor Stubbs.
This is courtesy taken somewhat too far, but on that basis, I will go to Councillor Stubbs. Perhaps if Councillor Stubbs prompts a thought in somebody else's head, you can then come in after. So I apologise, Councillor Stubbs. You may not be going last, but you are now going.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the income projections, how were the projected income figures, e.g. the 10,000 for pet cremations and 19,000 for food waste transfer, actually calculated, and what assumptions underpin their sustainability over the financial year?
Councillor Sweeney.
Councillor Stubbs, I've not actually calculated myself, but I can assure you they're not just being pulled out of thin air, as you would expect. I'm sure Mr. Turner will tell you how they've actually calculated, because he's the one who does the work, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. If we start with pet cremations, so we're installing some extra equipment at the crematorium to enable us to do pet cremations. It's been established that the 10,000 is a net income of 10,000, so that's after all of the costs have been taken into account. It's 10,000 for the first year, and we're expecting that that'll increase over the next few years. With regards to the food waste transfer station, as I'm sure you're aware, food waste becomes mandatory for every local authority from the 1st of April, and we've been in talks with some other local authorities who would like to transfer their food waste through our transfer station and agreed a price. The 19,000 is a half-year assumption, so it's on the pessimistic side, which should hopefully have doubled by the close of the year.
Okay, thank you. With regard to staffing efficiencies, the largest saving is 601,000, which comes from reduced pension contributions, if I'm reading that right. What actuarial assumptions have been made with that funding level, and how sensitive is that figure to market volatility?
Thank you. So our actuary has done lots and lots of modelling around this. The assumptions are again very pessimistic because they like to err on the side of caution. Our pension contributions will reduce to 19% per employee, where they're currently 22%. So that's where the majority of the saving comes from. We also make a lump sum contribution to the pension fund to address historic deficits and people who in the good old days used to retire a lot earlier than we'll be able to, and that amount is staying very similar over the next 3 years. So the full saving is actually on the contributions that we make per employee.
Thank you for the we on the pensions then. That was very good of you. I feel a lot younger now. That's excellent. On the tax base growth, the assumed increase of the tax base, which is 112,000 for council tax and 196,000 for business rates, relies on housing supply and business growth forecasting. What evidence supports these forecasts, and what contingency exists if growth underperforms?
I'll let you do that, Mary.
Thank you. So on council tax, the tax base is calculated on the actual number of homes at the current time and some assumptions that involve what planning applications are in at the moment. So on the council tax side of things, if you look through our collection fund amounts over the past few years, we're very, very close every year with our forecasts. So that one's absolutely fine. The business rates one assumes an increase in the tax base of 3%. And again, if you looked at the collection fund for business rates last year, we made a huge surplus. So that's putting that a bit more in line with where we should be. So I'm happy with both the assumptions.
The extended producer responsibility funding, it's 274,000 of additional funding, which assumes a national policy implementation. What is the certainty level of this funding stream, and how would the budget adjust if the policy is delayed or altered?
Thank you. Thank you again. Yesterday, we had a letter confirming our grant allocation. So for this year, we'll get 1.2 million. We'd already budgeted for 900,000, so this is extra on top of that. The allocation has been confirmed for this year and next year, and we should receive our first payment next week.
Moving on to the funding gap. The MTFS gap for 26-27 is 1.752 million. How sensitive is that figure to inflation, interest rates, or indeed pay award assumptions? And what scenario planning has been put in place in case that changes?
Thank you. So all of our budgets are sensitive to inflation. We tend to err on the side of caution. So our pay award, we've assumed 3% for next year, and that's above most of the other Staffordshire authorities in terms of their assumptions. We have we assume that premises costs, transport costs, and contract costs are going to increase in line with CPI. So there's lots of assumptions there, and then in partnership with this, we risk assess all of our budgets. So we come up with a figure that is currently about £2 million in our general fund that's based on, so just as a quick example on pay awards, if pay awards jump up by 0.5% more than what we think they are, then that amount's covered in the general fund reserve.
Okay. The capital programme, with 110 million basically planned for capital projects, largely financed by borrowing and future receipts. What risk analysis has been conducted on delays or shortfalls and anticipated capital receipts?
Okay, so we don't have a great reliance on capital receipts. So the majority of the capital receipts that you see in the capital programme are for the regeneration projects. So Astley Place, the Rycroft and the old Midway car park. In terms of the other capital receipts, there's some assumptions in there around Keele Golf Course, which is a vastly reduced capital receipt than if we rewound 5 years and looked at what we were assuming then. So again, in line with pretty much everything I've said so far, we are erring on the side of caution, and we'll continually monitor those receipts as well. And if we think something's going to need pushing on a bit further or reducing, then we'll reflect that in the quarterly cabinet reports.
Okay. The fair funding review. The report anticipates basically just shy of £1 million reduction in funding due to redistribution. What alternative strategies are in place if the fair funding review actually results in a greater than expected cut? Yeah.
I don't think it will, to start with. As with everything else I've said, we've erred relatively on the side of caution with the fair funding review. We've had lots of modelling done with one of our partners, LG Futures, who have a lot of insight into government policy and decisions. They pretty much gave us 3 scenarios. One was a lot worse than what you see here, and involved social care grants being excluded from the redistribution of the money to all different councils. After the policy statement, it's quite clear that that's not going to happen. We also had a scenario that was a bit more optimistic than what we've got in, but I felt the best place to be is somewhere in the middle. So we'll know the week commencing the 15th of December what our actual settlement is. And it's not going to be exact as to what's in here. It's either going to be a bit more or a bit less, but it's not going to be a million miles out, is my professional opinion.
Last question, Chair. Reserves and resilience. So the strategy mentions using surpluses to bolster revenues. What is the target reserve level for financial resilience? And how does this compare to the SIPFA recommendation benchmarks?
Thanks. So SIPFA recommend that we have about 5% of our net budgets, which is about 19 million, covered by our general fund reserve. We currently have about £2 million in the general fund reserve, which is about 10%. So we're well ahead of where SIPFA feel we need to be. I'd like to continue to bolster our reserves because with LTR coming down the line, we don't know exactly how much that's going to cost us. We've got some allowances in the budget that next year should be more than enough, but in the years after, like, we're entering a bit of an unknown, aren't we? So those surpluses that are shown in the MTFS would go towards protecting us for instances like those.
One last thought. Just to thank you very much to Mr. Turner for answering all those questions. And please pass on my thanks to the rest of the team for the budget you put forward. Thank you.
And thank you for those challenging questions, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Stubbs, for those questions. And I'm sure you know that Mr. Turner will answer them honestly. A couple of things. Nothing this council does is just finger in the air. We're going to do this and the other. There's backup to everything. All these figures, there's backup. You can Craig can prove all this to yourselves. That's one thing. And secondly, Craig and his predecessor were massively pessimistic whenever they did anything. They were prudence the word. Yeah, they weren't optimistic on anything. They was realistic or worse, if you like, all the time. They never ever, oh, I think we could be right on this. This will go through. Nothing like that ever happens, Mike, as I'm sure you're well aware. It's always the most prudent version they have, so that nothing untoward is coming to happen to us, and it can only be good news in future. And I hope Mr. Turner's persuaded you of that fact, as I'm sure he has, and I'm sure you know that as well as I do.
Thank you to the portfolio holder for those thoughts. I think it's fair to say that our forecasting is more accurate than the OBR, but perhaps what we are forecasting is a little easier to forecast. But I'm tremendously reassured by what we've heard about many of the assumptions that underpin the document that's in front of us. Other councillors, I did see Councillor Wielden. We've covered quite a lot of ground because Councillor Stubbs' questions covered all the things I think that he wanted to ask. But Councillor Wielden, if you'd like to comment or question now
I'm still happy to be the PS if someone else wants to say
let's
anything.
go with your good self, and then if anybody else wants to, they can jump in afterwards. Okay.
It's more of a commentary than a question. One thing I note is I'm a substitute for this committee and I've attended it quite a few times. And what I am impressed with is the thoroughness of it as far as scrutiny is concerned, because finance is quite high level in government situations, whether it be local government or national at the moment. Sarah, who was the predecessor to Craig, and Craig are very much of the same mould. And I think the word pessimistic is a good one because it's thorough. What I would say is that the 5 points that were noted as recommendations was that this committee note the first draft, they note the revised strategy, they note the commencement date, and they note approval of the capital estimates, and they note the proposed setting of the council tax. These things are to be noted, and whilst I understand Mr. Councillor Stubbs always does a thorough investigative audit of any documents that come with numbers in, I think noting it is sufficient for us. I would also say that since these things have to be noted and they're highlighted, whilst it's not of this committee's prerogative at all, I think it would be justified to show how successful we are. Councillor Sweeney, Cabinet, and all the finance officers supporting what they do, that this is an exemplary situation as far as finance is concerned. And in fact, we predict far better than the current national government, Labour government, as far as figures are concerned, even to the point of justifying some what ifs, which tend to be minutiae when it's best to look at the bigger picture first. So I congratulate everybody who's involved in this and would suggest that it might be a good idea to do a comparison between this and other alleged parties that we're trying to be manoeuvred into joining, to show how good we are at it and how poor they are, and why should we join them? Why should we even take note of the what ifs of national government if our what ifs are pretty hot and stand alone? Just a comment to say a good job.
Thank you very much for the comment, Councillor Wheeldon. Councillor Sweeney, do you have a reaction to that?
No, I think we'll see what happens with the forced local government reorganisation, won't we? But thank you for the praise, Councillor Wheeldon. I think this is a well-run council. We've got a good team of officers, very good finance team, very professional, and as I say, realistic in their figures. Nothing's guessed, nothing's optimistic. It's the most accurate they get, but it's all, well, not all, a lot of it is what they think is going to happen. And as long as what they think is going to happen is a genuine what they think is going to happen, I think it's a good place to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sweeney. It is, of course, essential that Councillor Sweeney is re-elected and Councillor Wheeldon is re-elected and Councillor Stubbs is re-elected, so that the enormous quantity of good work that's done in this room can continue to happen, whatever format local government takes in the future. Are there any other questions or comments from councillors on the report that's in front of us? It is important, but of course we will be conducting further budget scrutiny before it goes to full council, so this will come back to us. My own, so we are still, there's a lot of work to do still on it. There are still some government confirmations that are yet to come. My own comment would be Appendix C to this report, and it's in the same format every year. Appendix C to the report is the MTFS funding gaps. And in this year's report, I think it's the first time that I can remember that the word gaps is in inverted commas. And that's not to say that we're going to run an enormous surplus in future years. We've heard from our officer and from the portfolio holder that we are prudent or pessimistic when we're turning out this report. But it seems to me as though over the medium term, this council's finances are looking very well managed. Would that be an accurate way of describing the report that we see tonight, Councillor Sweeney?
I think it is, but I think there's always the proviso of what happens on December the 15th, because we don't know. Until we know that, we really don't know. It is estimates, but it's realistic estimates at the moment.
Correct, yes. The LGFS coming down the chimney. The elves are busy working on it now. In that case, thank you very much for the report, and thanks to councillors for their scrutiny of it. That concludes item number 4. Item number 5 is the financial and performance review report for the second quarter. We will look first at the report and the finance and performance Appendix A, and then we'll move on to the indicators afterwards. Do any councillors want to pass comment or ask a question on the report and Appendix A? If not, let's dive into the quarter 2 performance figures. As is usually the case, we'll take a look at all of the red indicators, but if anyone wants to raise a concern or a question about another indicator, feel absolutely free. Reminder that because they've changed some indicators this year, there are some purple numbers. Purple relate to lack of trend by reason of it being a new indicator. I think that's how we discussed it in quarter 1. The first red indicator on the list then, and I have to scroll quite a way down the document to find it because they are such a good set of figures, is 1.8A, the total number of digital online transactions. The target for this indicator is 37,500. The number is 28,760. Councillor Sweeney.
I have great pleasure tonight in not having to do this, because it's one of those things, It could be bad, it could be good. I tried to explain it. I think other officers have tried to explain it. So tonight, we've got the man who knows here, and he's going to try to explain it. Where you go, Mr. Clark?
Okay, so this number is a collection of the JARDU, which is our public website, plus our council tax and NNDR system. So where people fill in online forms or request things like to change direct debits, etc., etc. So this number does have peaks and troughs at certain times of the year. So, for example, I'm sure when this comes back at the next quarter, due to the launch of things like garden waste, and then we'll be into the annual billing period, there will be peaks and troughs naturally as part of it. However, there is a trend that has been developing that we are reducing the number of forms that are being completed. Now, a lot of that is because we've been putting more information at the start of a form. So before, you'd almost get all the way to the end of the form to then be told, I don't know, if you're applying for a discount, for example, it waits to the very end of the form to say you need this in order to qualify. Well, that's wasted everybody's time in terms of from a resident's point of view, because we could have just told you that at the start. So we've done a lot of the work around our information and guidance and moving that information to the start of our form. So for all of our forms now, it tells you from the pieces of information that you need in order to complete the form. And we are seeing, due to that, almost the introduction of the moving of the information to the start of the form, a slight reduction in the number. However, I counter that by saying as soon as we launch garden waste, which we have done, that will suddenly show us a peak, and then it'll naturally come down, and then it'll go up again after March when we issue our annual bills.
Thank you very much for that gloss. Yes, members, we have discussed this particular metric in the past, and we've said how good it would be to have a digital brain sitting on the panel here. So yes, our officer is here tonight to answer questions like that. So if anyone has a related question, now would be a good time to raise that, even if it's not quite on the indicator. But Councillor Stubbs, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Sam. So I think the long-term view is then that it's going to trend, that target figure will trend down. Are we looking to trend that down 5-10%? I mean, I fully understand what you're saying about the fact that the council tax bills and obviously the garden waste will hammer it up. But can you give us a sort of idea that where you think it'll be come March?
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to put an exact figure on there, because from my point of view, and from as a customer service delivery, whatever that figure is, I would much rather that residents have the right experience in going through that form. So it's hard to put an exact figure or percentage on it. But the numbers that we're getting through now don't seem miles off where we would expect that the transactions. There is still some room to and things to improve in terms of our online forms, and that's the work that the team are doing now, for example. So we still get a huge volume of emails in every day, but we need to try and flip that to try and drive them more towards the forms, so that then residents aren't providing us with all the information to try and apply for a discount, for example, when they go to the form and could have been told you're not eligible, or etc., etc. So it's part of a piece of work as part of the launch of our new online forms. We're going back over them, taking in the feedback, and then iterating through them and changing them and taking on that feedback. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say is I'd urge the feedback to come in if there's something around the forms that we can definitely change. So it's more of a contextual figure than a trend, is what I would say. But we really do monitor that feedback that we get on the forms to know whether we're getting that right balance of, is it working for people? Are they getting the right information and guidance to point them in the right direction?
Thank you for the question and answer. Is this then a metric that in the future could become a purely contextual figure? So we're not looking at it as a red indicator any longer. We're looking at it as a number that's reported that then needs analysis to work out whether it's good or not. And a question for members, in addition to our officer, is what alternative performance indicator would you like to see if you were keen on having a performance indicator that measures something that's useful and going to help us in the future? I'll go to Councillor Bryan first, and then I'll ask our officer to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any kind of metrics that we could do based on, you talked, Sam, about the emails that we get. Is there any metrics that we can do looking at the number of forms that are there where people maybe didn't know about them and those forms that don't exist?
Absolutely. So we've, as part of the launch of our new contact centre system, as part of the refreshed telephony and email, that's starting to give us a picture of that data and the amount of emails that are coming in. The next phase of that is looking at, well, what's the resolution to that? Because just emailing back every time isn't picking up that iteration and the feedback loop. So that's the piece the team are now working on. So, for example, when our customer hub team send an email, it's almost asking for that clarity around, well, what was the reason why that person had to email us? And then as part of that journey, so we're picking up that data and taking snapshots and flavours of what are the key trends around emails incoming. So I think before I answer the question from the chair, I think there's some more measures to come in terms of that will give some better context than just a top level figure. Because I think for us personally, I think it's more about how we've dealt with the 28,000 odd requests for service, if we want to call them that, the online forms, rather than just saying we've had 28,000.
Yeah, I think it'd be a useful metrics to see, how many emails are we getting? What do we think of that trend? Is the number of emails going down? Are people using the forms? Do they not know about the forms? Or do the forms not exist and we need to do some work to implement something like that? I think that they would be useful metrics.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think going from that and moving into once we launch our new sort of customer portal and joining up the data and exposing more of that back to our residents and our businesses, and then having tailored forms to that. So we're really trying to cut down again on you can have hundreds of forms and you can have a form for there is lots of them on there. But the key part that you mentioned there is actually that people know about them and can find them, and it's not buried in, deep down in our website. So that's what the team have been focusing on and really focusing on accessibility and making it easy, big, large buttons saying apply, etc. on our website. But definitely there's some more measures to come, and I think that's one thing that once we've got a picture of that data, we can then work up with everybody around what that needs to look like and what you want from the data, because there are so much pieces of data that we want to make it really useful and contextual.
Okay, would any other councillor like to ask a question at this point? If not, Councillor Sweeney, do you have anything to add to what's been said? No. In that case, the next red indicator is 1.4a, the total percentage of materials collected for recycling and composting verified via WDF. This is one that at our last meeting, I think we described as achingly close, but not quite a green indicator. So the target is 51% and the realised value is 49.34 for Q2. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, I spoke to Councillor Hutchison at some length about this. Two things to note. Target 51% was raised from 49% to make it more challenging. So that's half the reason. And secondly, he says he put his garden waste bin out 3 times during the summer because it was a hot summer and grass didn't grow, and that brings the waste down. He says it's as simple as that. That's the reason for it. Hot weather, you don't mow your grass so much, it doesn't grow, weighs less, and that's where we are. And that's his answer.
As before, then, so in the first quarter we had the same discussion. It's a weight thing, and if only the garden waste had been a little bit heavier, we'd have hit target. If only we'd have kept the target where it was last year, it's a target that we'd have hit. So this authority has, and it was mentioned at Cabinet that some of our indicators have been made more stringent in order to stretch us. Would any officer like to add to what Councillor Sweeney has said? No. No volunteers for that then. Any further comments from councillors before we move on? No. In that case, in order to scroll on to the next one, we do have to pass the page of clear 100%, all within Councillor Hutchison's portfolio area. So there are some things that we do incredibly well, and he deserves praise for that. The last, I think, is that the last one? I'm sure I saw another. Fly tipping, there we are. Yes, sorry, I've scrolled past it. It's 3.13. It is percentage of fly tipping incidents where sufficient evidence gathered to proceed to formal enforcement. Target 1.5, value is 1.37. Councillor Sweeney.
Again, I spoke to Councillor Hutchison about this, and he says the guys who clear this stuff, obviously fly tipping is something that we all, think's appalling, don't we? I think everybody agrees with that. But our guys go in, they put the old rubber gloves on, they root around, they see what they can find, see if they find names or addresses or anything, and they can't find it. But please, nobody think we take this lightly. The guys do a genuine job. They're doing a job I want to do particularly, and if they can't find anything, they can't find anything. That's it.
Okay, so yes, that's an unfortunate thing. It's a percentage, so the percentage that we're looking to get that evidence in order to then go ahead and prosecute these people is very low. But unfortunately, it's not always possible to catch these people. We've heard some real horror stories in recent weeks in other authorities of this being a major concern. Councillor Stubbs.
Just in that vein, actually, Chair, without going too much into it, because there's a police investigation and there's also an environmental agency, there is a large sum of fly tipping. I think that's probably the polite way of putting it in talk currently. Maybe the illegal dumping more like, yes, but and that could be anything up to 50 tonnes plus. So, I mean, looking for a rainbow out of that, can we use that to boost our figures up if any of the waste there? I don't know if the EA just outsource it and it just gets done, but if it could be done by this authority, perhaps some of that could be used for recycling, perhaps it could be used for whatever. Tidy it up would be lovely, but if we can make some gains out of it as well, that would be even better. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Sweeney.
I'm sure our officers will know about this, and I'm sure they'll take extra action. It is a blight, fly tipping, isn't it? You go down a country lane, there's a pile of tyres stuck on the side or something. So it's a thing we take very, very serious. I'm sure if they find something, they will do.
Thank you very much. With that, that is the final red indicator. Would anybody like to raise an indicator that we've not covered? Because there are lots of very positive things in there as well. Councillor Grocott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Two things, actually, coming back to it. First one is just a comment rather than a question, obviously, on the staff sickness. Obviously, you notice that some of the things on there seem like they could be long-term and obviously very, I think, sensitive to family. So perhaps it may be, we could just calm it down slightly. I think sometimes the detail may be a bit too much, and obviously pass on our regards to the actual people affected on that one. The second one is based on the timescale for breaches. Notice that there's a hell of a lot of breaches this time, so that's obviously why the figure is like at 50% rather than 75. I think we have brought this up before, and obviously if there's more breaches, obviously have we got enough staff to cover with this? Obviously, like I say, it's gone up by nearly 100% on that, the actual breach mark, well, from 90 to 145, I think it is. So it's a substantial amount. So obviously, is that too much for the staff to actually cover? Well, and should we change the actual indicator on that one to reflect that? Okay.
Should we do staff sickness first? Is that okay? Go ahead, Georgie.
Yeah, I take your point around the sensitivity of the information, and I think it's difficult, isn't it, to strike a balance between giving you enough information to be able to scrutinise the data. But yeah, absolutely, take that forward. We'll make sure that we're very sensitive in those things, as are the managers who are dealing with those sickness situations. But yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the answer. I think it is important that information like that is reported to us because we have as a committee expressed an interest in that area before, but our office has taken on board your comments. The other one then was that the alleged breaches of planning control.
Mr. will take that.
Simon, go ahead.
Give that a go. Right, so that they were quite complex, so that's taken a little bit of time. The team is fully staffed now, so we did struggle in the past with capacity, but we've got the team fully staffed now. So they were just complicated. They took a little bit longer, which has had then a knock-on effect, but it will get better.
Thank you for that answer. Anything to respond on that, Councillor Grocott? Excellent. In that case, we shall move on. Thank you very much for your forbearance. Item number 6 then is the regular update that we receive on the Town Deal and Future High Street Funds work. Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Chairman. Split in 2 sections, the Future High Street Fund, which is all but spent. Market improvements are done, the television's in. I think I was still waiting for the seatings going, I think. Astley Place, you go there now, you can hear people talking, hammers, drilling, things like that. So progress is being made there. Rye Park Castle Car Park, that's all open and done. MacArthur's own residential development is just going along in its own sweet way. The Rye Park, as it says on here, Captain Century give appointed Henry Boot to undertake the Rye Park, so that's going on. What I'm really excited about is when I can see some big cranes. I like a crane that show that things are happening. So we sat there for a couple of years now with there's a crane, look. He's so funny. But I think we've, for a couple of years, we've not really seen things happening. It's all been on the background, hasn't it? And planning permission's been on, funding's been sorted, everything's done, and now we start to see things actually happening. So I think that's really, really exciting. Exciting time to be living in Newcastle, I think. Newcastle Town Deal money now. We've got the picture of the old Midway car park. There is a better picture than this, I said, I think last time, from the ground looking upwards. But I think this is just going to be so exciting when it gets done. As Performing Arts Centre is going along. Not in Chesterton. There you go. There's a nice picture for you. Councillor Grocott, you happy with that? That's from Acacia looking upwards, isn't it, I think? But yep, so that's coming on. Waiting for the Enterprise Centre, I think is still having problems with the wiring. It's a county council building now, so they're having problems with the substation, getting it going. A few months ago, as a by-election, Councillor Grocott, you were quite excited about the village hall, and you were talking about you got a few people who might be interested in running it. Then it's gone a bit quiet, but I'm now hearing off the officers you might have another group or something. Possibly, no more than possibly yet. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The new plans are now going to be Enterprise Centre with a community use room. The problem with all these things is getting people to run them, and that's the drawback with all these things. But that's a new technique now. Some enterprise units with a community room. The football ground, that's the whammy, that's been done now. Cross Street Chesterton, another nice picture for you. Got that there. It's coming on. Zanzibar enterprise units are planning's all done. Nothing's been built yet, but you can see work on site. Like it's a bit like Astley Place and the Midway now. You can see things actually happening. Walking cycling provision, big chunk of that's been done from the Barracks Road crossing and along the. That's why the pavement's been double the size now, so you can cycle along it. Sustainable travel. I think the Kiel University thing is starting to come on now. Digital society is. I think we're ready to no, it's done. Digital side killing town, that's done. I think Piccoloco being on the ground floor now has given it a bit of a zip to it. Oh, that's all good news. Digital infrastructure, I think we after bids now to actually run it. Kids Ground Town deal, Chatley Valley. It's coming along really well. And I'm still hearing about 1,800 jobs going there, so that's really good news. Kidsgrove Station works, that's all gone on. Canal Pathways being done. Community Learning Hub, these are all going on. Enterprise units on the meadows and highway improvements, that's all gone through planning and all just progressing along. So I've got nothing really bad to say about it. It's all exciting stuff. I think it's a good time to live in Newcastle, and I think it's a good time now to see things actually starting to happen. Spades in the ground, if you like. But I'll pass it on. I'll take any questions. If I can answer them, I'm sure I know a man who can. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update, Councillor Sweeney. Again, can I draw attention to the photographs? They're very useful. The committee had asked to see them before, and now the report is fully illustrated for our benefit. But it is very good news, I think, that's been reported to us. Are there any questions or comments from members? Councillor Stubbs.
Just one, Chair, thank you. Section 2.3.2, as to the Kidsgrove train station works, the first sentence, the previously reported issue with costs of the car park underpinning due to the mine works have been resolved. Okay, so that's my first question. How were they resolved? But then later in the paragraph, it then refers to the car park works outside the area that have been indicated for underground mine remediation or the underpinning zone. So I suppose my question is, have the issues been sorted by, frankly, just ignoring that area and moving everything into the smaller car park in front of the train station? Or is there going to be some work done on what used to be the I won't say scrapyard, but not scrapyard, the breaker's yard? Yeah, next to the railway station, which is where the underpinning issue was.
Thank you for the question. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to comment, or should we hand over to our officer?
Pass it over to
Go ahead.
It's your first assumption. We have moved everything away from where it needs underpinning because we couldn't afford, nor did we get any funding to address the underpinning. So we have moved the scope of the works to an area of the site which is smaller but doesn't need underpinning.
Sorry, I come back on that. So I know the original plan was for a transport hub, one for a better word there, and that was going to be located on the smaller car park. Does that now mean that the transport hub won't happen or will be much smaller because of the cars fitting onto the car park?
On this occasion, your second assumption is correct.
Do you have any follow-ups on that, Councillor Stubbs? It is important, and this is an item of scrutiny that we've wanted to look at. It's a shame that the town deal in Kidsgrove hasn't been as straightforward to deliver as the one in Newcastle, but we have at length heard from our officers about the reasons for that and the alternative schemes of work that have come forward for things that were not deliverable in the end. Does any other councillor wish to raise a question or ask? Go ahead, Councillor Orwell.
A comment. As a regular user of the canal towpath, which is practically on my doorstep, I would like to say what a wonderful job they've done on it.
Councillor Sweeney says thank you. Mr. McKennedy, do you have any response regarding the canal? Any comments you'd like to add?
I'm delighted that you enjoy it.
Councillor Grocart.
Yeah, based on that, I think I should actually thank everybody for obviously what's happened in Chesterton. Houses there are a few of them that look like they need enough to go in already, so it looks fantastic. In fact, somebody reckons someone maybe have. So, but it is great. It's great to see new people coming into the area and more investment coming in. So, thanks to everybody on that one. Thank you very much.
Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you for the kind comments about the canal. I've always said at these meetings and at cabinet meetings and everything, I spent some holidays for 10 years, 6 weeks every time on the canals. So I know the canals, and I know how important Brindley was to them. And Brindley, of course, is buried in Newcastle, and the Harecastle Tunnel is. There used to be the Seven Wonders of the Waterways or something, and I can't remember what they all were now. Anderson Lift was one of them, but Harecastle Tunnel was, and I think it's good for us to make. This is a big thing, I believe, in canal, and there's a lot of money in canals. There's a lot of people who use boats who will be happy to go shopping in Kidsgrove. So I think it's money well spent, personally. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the last item of substantive business. Item number 7 is the work programme. The committee in its current form is running out of meetings. We are reaching the end of our final year in the cycle of 4 years for the council. So we will be meeting on the 15th of January and on the 26th of March. Some of us, perhaps all of us, will be meeting on the 11th of June, or we're forecast to do so. But the next meeting, of course, is the important one. We'll be looking at the revenue and capital strategies and the schedule of fees and charges before the budget is adopted. And then we are going to meet again on 26th of March, where we have the regular items, the Town Deal and Future High Streets Fund update and the commercial strategy, which will come back to us. Would anybody like to suggest anything else at this late stage in the municipal cycle? In that case, that is almost certainly how our next and final 2 meetings of the cycle will pan out. Items number 8 and 9 are public question time and urgent business. I've received no public questions. There is no urgent business. And in that case, meeting is closed. Thank you very much. Have a good Christmas, everyone.